To the Steve Setka Show, your uncensored champion. I'm your host, Steve Setka, and I'm diving deep into the things that matter most to me: sport, freight, and faith. On the show, we're not afraid to go beyond the surface. We get real, share bold opinions, and hit you where it may be uncomfortable. These are the topics I'm passionate about, and I bet they'll spark something in you too. So buckle up for quick, high-impact episodes that'll shake you up. Welcome back to the Steve Setka Show. We're on episode 35, fresh episode every single week, and we are bringing you some fire here. We're talking about freight, faith, and sport, and a little bit of business today, which is exciting. As per usual, we frame every show from your fearless leader here with a Bible verse that is more practically speaking to the heart, so that people can listen and learn and be guided by the Holy Spirit. James 1-12 from the King James Version states, "Blessed is the man that endureth." Very generally speaking there, Randy Penner, welcome to the show. What comes to mind when I read that very practical verse to you this morning?
Well, I'm reminded of all the temptation of my life past, because obviously we're all tempted in life.
Yeah.
And if you were to compare the 16-year-old me to the now 68-year-old me, there's such a dramatic difference that you wouldn't even recognize us as the same people.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Randy, we get tempted. Sometimes we get a second chance. Sometimes we don't. But sometimes you just got to kind of roll with the punches. The dog's barking in the window. You got to go deal with it. You got to go manage a circumstance, and you got to get back right back on the horse. So we're going to keep that part in the show, but we're going to cut out some of that barking, and we're going to continue going here. It's exciting, Randy. You told me something very cool. You're a business guy. You're in networking. You love following people. You love leading people. That's really what we talk about on the show here is freight, faith, business, and a little bit of interesting lifestyle that people have for sure. So you built up this incredible LinkedIn follow. I saw you had 1,000 followers on LinkedIn. How have you done this over the last 20, 30 years?
Well, it's a bit at a time. It's just that incremental progress on a regular, consistent basis. I didn't do it necessarily as a specific numerical discipline, but I know that LinkedIn has limits on how many people you can invite to connect with you. And I think I probably bumped up against some of those limits as time went on. And so then I went, I guess I better shrink back from that. So I think it was somewhere around maybe 20 a week, 20 new connections a week on average. And that is not overly aggressive. That works out. Let's say it's 21 a week. That would be 3 a day. 3 people a day is not overly aggressive. But at the same time, over a period of many, many years, it ends up being quite a large number of people.
Well, the more you connect with people, the more you can figure out who your tribe is and, what you're into and what you're interested in. And, also, click and connect on LinkedIn is only one part of it, right? Someone's got to accept that invitation on the other side. So you have to provide value to them online, creating content, putting goodwill out to the world, spreading, the message of good energy and positivity so that, people want to connect with you, right? And they also got to click follow. So if you have 17,000 followers on there, they got to click follow and connect back with you as well. So, some people say your network is your net worth or your network is one letter away from not working. So if you don't want to work and you don't want to build any wealth, then don't necessarily, build up your network, become somebody that people want to follow. And I looked at your LinkedIn and it's tremendous and you have great value and you produce incredible results in your businesses. So tell us a little bit about your journey through your legal career, building the network and building all these different organizations you've been a part of.
Well, first of all, you mentioned legal career. I want to just clarify I'm not a lawyer. And of course, the classic follow-up to that is, but I play one on TV. But of course, I don't. I'm just kidding. But I've been an independent associate of Legal Shield for about 24 years now. And the idea of affordable access to justice appealed to me inherently because I'm basically a fair person and I like people to be able to be treated fairly. And so it resonated with my purpose and mission in life. And so it's been a long-term relationship that I've really valued and appreciated. In terms of some of the other things that I'm working on, I have an event series called BizNet Sparks. And actually, you've been a featured speaker in that organization. It might have been under the predecessor name Moving Up Network, but nonetheless, we have the continuity of over 12 years of experience of putting on events. And I sort of look at it almost like my own human resources department. It's like I have a human resources professional friend who cringes every time I say that, because of course it's not actually a human resources department in terms of the way that we would normally think of it in terms of, a department in a major corporation. But it's a great place to meet not only people quantity wise, but to actually get to know people and to work with people, especially the ones that are the featured speakers, because I work with them for about maybe 2 weeks leading up to an event. And so I get to know them a lot better. And many of these people I've maintained some degree of ongoing interaction with. So like it's rather subtle because when you first meet somebody, it might just be that they were a kind of an attendee at an event and they were just kind of quiet in the background or whatever. But over time, maybe they attend more events, and somewhere along the way, I detect that maybe they're worthy of being a featured speaker. And so I invite them to be a featured speaker, and most times they say yes. And so then little by little over time, I get to know people. And then eventually I get to the point where there are people that I really trust, value, and appreciate. And I don't let the ones that I don't trust, I don't let them know that I don't trust them, but I just, it's kind of like a positive winnowing process where the people that I really get to like and know and trust, I invite them into some larger projects that I'm working on.
Incredible. Well, you got a couple different careers going on here for sure. And you're an event guy and you're a people person for sure. And you're very likable and easy to be around. And I think there's a lot of principles in your life you've learned over time that have created that aura around you for sure. Now, you said something interesting prior to the show that I want to ask you about in terms of your belief or your non-belief in God per se, and being raised in a Mennonite household, but choosing to believe in God or choosing not to believe in God. Give us your perspective around God and your perspective around faith and how that may or may not connect to how you operate in your life.
Well, I didn't actually choose to be an atheist. I became growingly aware that I didn't believe in God, even though I've been raised to believe in God in a Mennonite household. And so around my mid 40s, I decided I just didn't want to fake that anymore. And so I became not public in terms of a loudspeaker, but just in terms of like, I didn't shy away from mentioning that about myself anymore. But I have read the Bible all the way through, like word for word, all the way through from the very beginning to the very end, including all the begats.
Yeah.
I think it's Numbers or Deuteronomy or maybe both. And I am very grounded in Christian principles. And so I live my life by the golden rule, even though I no longer profess a belief in God, because I believe there's a lot of wisdom in the Bible. There's a lot of wisdom in Christianity. There's a lot of wisdom in a lot of religions, actually, if one were to actually look into them,
Absolutely.
if they weren't raised in them. But some people feel that they want to maybe draw back from me because I'm an atheist, but I challenge them, not everyone, but just occasionally if it becomes a point of issue with them, I challenge them to stop believing in God for 1 minute. And then after a minute is over, start believing in God again. Well, if you actually think about that, it's impossible to do. So I, as a person who don't believe in God, can no more switch on a belief than a person who believes in God can switch their belief off. Okay. So it's like we find ourselves on opposite sides of the chasm, but where we have a common denominator is that I'm a good person and I treat people right. And, most Christians are good people who treat people right as well. So even though we think we're way, way different because one believes in God and the other one doesn't, but in terms of actual practice, in actual life, in actual business, I think we'll find ourselves quite compatible.
It's all about finding common ground. And there's a reason I asked that question for sure, is because I know that you have Penner is a Mennonite last name. I know you were raised in that faith, right? And things change. You have to be open-minded in your life to change what you think, what you believe. You have to question, you have to research, you have to study. I love what you say, because even though I don't necessarily agree per se with your perspective, I love how you've gone through the entirety of the system in order to see where you fit, right? You've read the entire Bible front to back, all 66 books of the Bible. You know the principles, you know the concepts, you know the understanding, but you also know what the negativities are that come out of
people that hide behind the guise of the Bible specifically, right? So yes, there are good Christians, there are bad Christians, we are all sinners. Like you said, whether you believe in God or what, personal choice, but not necessarily something you're going to turn on or off. Just like if you do believe in him or if you don't believe in him, it's not like, boop, done. Today I do, today I don't. That's not necessarily how it works. So one thing that I want to promote on this show and on my brand is to talk with people like you, talk with people who maybe disagree or maybe don't see it the same way, and learn and understand. So if I have an argument and you have an argument, right, and might have some different perspectives, and I seek guidance, advice, and information, knowledge from you, that only helps to either see your argument more strongly or strengthen my own argument itself. So we need to expose ourselves to people who see things differently. For example, religion or faith or politics or any sort of idea out there in the world, so that we can continue to educate and create knowledge and wisdom in our own life to create a better world. And you said something beautiful as well. We're all the same. We all want to treat people well. We won't want to live in harmony. I bet you if I cut your arm right now and I cut my arm right now and we were to bleed, we would bleed the exact same color. We're both human. We're made in the image and the likeness, which is kind of cool. So that's why I integrate faith, Randy, with business and freight and the interests in my life. So the connection between freight business, faith, and sport is very important to me. You also have a perspective of health and sport and fitness as well too. How does that connect to the wholesome person who Randy is? Randy, tell me how the connection between your wisdom, your business, your network, and your health all go hand in hand.
Well, I would say that the origins of that would have been March of 1986 when I attended a health seminar called Healthy Choices. It was a weekend seminar, and it literally changed my life. I mean, how many weekends do we have? If somebody asked you about a weekend from like 35 years ago, are you going to be able to tell them like what happened? No.
Because I wasn't even a thought yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm an old geezer, so what can I say, right? But yeah, like literally March of 1986, I went to the seminar because prior to that seminar, I used to eat anything and everything and in large quantities and brag about it. It was bad. It was bad. After that seminar, I was very mindful of what I put into my body, and I was very aware of the potential consequences of it. And so it really changed my life. And then over time, I became aware of other aspects of health beyond what had been taught in the seminar, but that was the beginning of the journey. Here I am, I'm 68 years old, and I had one of my cousins ask me at a funeral earlier this year, how come you don't have any wrinkles? And he's the same age as me. And he's got like wrinkled like a prune. Like, and when we were young, we were both looking like little kids about, 8 years old or whatever, and we both looked roughly the same. Well, it's because I've made tens of thousands of decisions differently than he did. And I mean, I love my cousin. I care about him, but I don't manage his life. I can't control the decisions that he's made, And so, and I don't say that to put him down because many people are like that. But the thing is, it became like in my younger years, let's say my early to mid 20s, I was more focused on money. I'm more focused on health. I've actually worked with the disabled and vulnerable community for probably about 30 years. And I've seen people in the later stages of their life, people that were doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, hotel owners, whatever. And it's pretty easy to be brash and smart alecky when you're young and middle-aged. But when you're vulnerable in your latter years, I find that most people are not actually in that sort of same mindset anymore. They're more tempered in their way of dealing with people and their way of dealing with life. And so what's happened is that I've become very, very clearly aware that health is literally the most important aspect of life that we can actually focus on. And I incorporate health topics into our business networking events, BizNet Sparks, as well, because who is going to want to build a business if they're literally on their deathbed? So health may seem like a valid topic only in the health industry, but I include health as a topic for the broad spectrum of business. Now, how it affects me is even more profound than that, and I'll leave it to you to ask maybe more questions, because I don't want to be like a long answers to short questions guy, be tempted to do like we talked about at the very beginning of the podcast.
Well, there you go. Randy, that's fascinating you say that, because that's what I was kind of looking for. And I know that's a big part of your life. And I know you're older and people think that you're younger. You look good, you're glowing, you're glamorous, you have this energy to you. And we've had these discussions before. And I think we need to share these discussions across a wide variety of platforms so other people can hear about it. And you talk to entrepreneurs regularly, and you're one of them. And they say, look, I focused on money for a long time and not my health, and it bit me in the ass. Now we're going to focus on health and not as much on money. And guess what? The money comes anyways, right? Because health is number one. And it is something to pay attention to. Only recently, I've put a priority in my life of sleeping 8 to 8.5 hours every night to ensure that I'm fresh for the next day. I already have a consistent morning routine that I've had going this morning because I have a good night's sleep, because I put good fuel, good water, good energy in my body. And they say that a healthy, sick man only wants one thing. They want their health. And a wealthy man wants a million different types of things. So that sick man just wants one thing. Well, that would promote the fact that health is number one, physically, mentally, and spiritually, in order to ensure that you can do all those other things that you need to do: provide for your family, support your community, take care of yourself, make enough money to live, etc., which is kind of fascinating. So if you're going to elaborate on that with a little bit of a summary so we can wrap up this show here shortly, what would be that one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is a little bit younger to you in terms of their health and in terms of their business and how they connect together?
Well, I would say that becoming aware that having an open mind, which you mentioned earlier in the podcast yourself, you mentioned about being open-minded. Having an open mind is probably the single most important quality of mind a person can have. Open-mindedness to some people means that you become gullible, or that you'll just do anything that you hear about. But open-mindedness, to me, and probably broadly speaking, means getting the information before you make the decision regarding that particular issue. Whereas a lot of people make what I would consider a closed-minded decision because they make a knee-jerk response to something, like just kind of like, no, they'll just like close themselves off because they think they know the answer, but they've not even exposed themselves to the information. And so like open-mindedness goes far beyond just health, but open-mindedness has led me to engage in a lot of personal development over the years. That's why I mentioned to you in our prior conversation that 16-year-old me would not even be able to relate at all to the 68-year-old me, because I've engaged in over half a century's worth of personal development. And although no one particular page that I've read maybe has had a profound impact, but certainly the torrent of personal development over 50 years has definitely had an impact. And like I said, the 16-year-old me, I don't even want to describe, because you kind of like want to shut the podcast off early.
We've all gone through that, my friend. And it's inspiring what you've done and the discipline that you've built in your life. And we all have experiences that we're not necessarily proud of, but we aspire to create more so experiences that we are proud of. And that's what comes through life, through suffering, which creates wisdom so that we can pass that on to the next generation, which is fascinating. Randy, we got to sum this up. We got to wrap it up, but our team needs to know where they can find you and where the people who listen to this show can connect with Randy Penner and get this exact same fire in more of a depth manner.
Okay. LinkedIn, well, my name is Randy Penner, but my middle initial D is for David, but my middle initial, so it's Randy D. Penner on LinkedIn, and it's Randy D. Penner on Instagram as well. Now, I think I'd have to check. But anyway, if you search for that, and the reason the D is important is because although there are many Randy Penners in the world, apparently when I did a Google search on my name, there's only one Randy D. Penner, and that's me. So it's easier to find me if you include that middle initial. Not that it's a big deal when you talk to me, but just in terms of finding me, that's the way to do it.
Incredible. This man is so on fire, Randy. Thanks for coming on the show. We're going to get your name out there even more than it already is, and we're going to make sure people know that the D is in there for dominating. Randy, which is fantastic. So find the right Randy Penner. He'll help you with your health, your spirit, your life, your energy, and your business, and we'll make it happen. Thanks again for joining the Steve Setka Show. Thou shalt not be tempted if you seek the right resources. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.
And I want to thank you for inviting me. as your guest today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode. I hope you found value in what we shared and that you'll take it with you to positively impact the world around you. If so, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and share the show, because we're on a mission to grow and reach more hearts. Prayers, gratitude, and love. Until next time.